Okay, welcome everybody. We have here today with us, this is my first guest on my podcast. I'm really excited to have you here. Dr. Z, also called Zonram Liao. He is a vet in California. He has his own clinic. He has his own brand of pet products. And I'm really excited to have you here today. I mainly invited you on because I have followed you on Instagram for a while. And I just admire actually, you have it written behind you, grit, like the drive, stamina, and fortitude to push through any challenge or obstacle. But you do it with such a humor and you just seem to be flowing through the day.
No. Thank you so much for noticing my old man motivational poster over here. But yeah, it's an honor to be on here and talking to you, Gunila. We've been following each other for a long time, and it's so good to finally get a chance to talk and meet here. And yeah, I'm happy to jump on and share with your audience whatever questions you might have. And yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, let's get to it. So my I'm just gonna grab you. My podcast is kind of aimed towards vets that are a bit overwhelmed or maybe struggling a bit like many of us are in the profession. And I thought you'd be the perfect guest because one of the things that you say on your Sunshine Veterinary Care website, on your clinic, you say that the goal is to help as many people and pets as possible and have a great attitude while doing so. And I just love the last bit, like about the great attitude. Can you, because I think that's alpha and omega, right? Like we don't want to be helping pets and their parents, but be in a terrible mood all day doing it and
Yeah.
blaming each other and blaming them for all they do wrong. So can you tell me a bit about how that came up, that kind of sentence?
Yeah. I mean, what it comes down to is building a culture in the clinic. I put that line there in 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 writing on my website because I wanted it to kind of reflect the culture that I have in the clinic. And it trickles down, right? There's leaders that lead by example, there's leaders that lead by motivational speeches, and there's dictator type leaders, which I'm not, but everyone leads a different way. And for me, it starts at the top. If you lead by example, you have a great attitude, you're really focused on helping people and helping pets in the community, in the clinic that you're working in. Your staff will see that, yeah. And when you're making hires, you want to make sure that you're hiring staff that kind of reflect that attitude, right?
Yeah.
So if it trickles down and my staff are doing it, they're having fun, they're helping people, helping pets. When people are in need, we're here for them, and we have a great attitude doing it. We're smiling, that's why we call it Sunshine Veterinary Care, right?
It's
And it's sorry to sound very California, but it's a whole vibe over here that we want to give off. And I'm glad, we're lucky that despite being a new clinic, the people in the community really, really love it. They've taken to it, and happy to be here serving the community with smiles on our faces.
yeah. I read that you opened in January this
Yeah,
this year, basically.
yeah.
So before that, you worked in corporate, didn't you?
Yeah, I worked
Yeah.
for Banfield Pet Hospital for a number of years, and there's a lot of stigma about Banfield Pet Hospitals in the U.S. However, during my time with Banfield, I had a great time. To be completely honest, despite working for corporate, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from the business side. I learned a lot from the protocol side, procedural side, how to instill protocols in the clinic that work, all right, and can trickle down to the staff and develop a sense of responsibility, and also at the same time make sure everyone does the amount of work they should and no one's slacking off. So I learned a ton, had a great time. But after I helped Banfield with 2 startup clinics, and then another clinic. I worked in 3 different Banfields over a course of 5.5, 6 years. I decided to take what I learned and see what I can build. And it's been so much fun building my own clinic out for the last 6 months.
Yeah, I followed you like right from the beginning when you were building it, and then somebody broke in, and it was just
Yeah.
it was really fun to follow. So I've had my own clinic. I work for a private practice and I work for corporate as well. And I think it's all about the people, right? It's about like corporate can be corporate, but it also depends on who you land with. And private
Yep.
could be great, but it also depends on like who the person is. Just because
Absolutely.
it's private, it's not it's not, secure
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it's gonna
Despite,
be
the
nice.
stigma around corporate versus private, it's just really like you said, you hit it on the nail. It's who you're surrounded with, the people you're working with, and the people make the practice. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to give people a bit of background if you don't mind, because you
Yeah.
are first generation Chinese American.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you grew up in a community in California. And I read as well that your parents went back to China to kind of like work and provide for the family. So you had a bit
Yeah.
of a rough time growing up. And I'm telling everybody this because then I also read that your first year as a veterinarian, you were actually the only veterinarian in the practice 80% of the time.
Yeah.
And it was pretty tough, you said. And you also said that you think that made you a stronger and better vet.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, how did that make you a stronger, better vet as opposed to burning you out? And whether your childhood, well, your younger years where you kind of had maybe a bit of a rough start, whether that helped you as well? Or can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, I think it all kind of ties in together, and what Gunilla you're talking about is basically what we call a parachute kid. Yeah. So my parents came and immigrated over here from Taiwan in the 1980s. And they did their best because they wanted to, provide a better living for us and me and my sister, right? However, after being here for many years, they found it's really tough to have really good jobs, especially if your English isn't good, you haven't caught up over here with a lot of the culture. So when me and my sister were 15, 16 years old, when we were able to fend for ourselves per se a little bit, my parents went back to Taiwan and China, where they spoke the language. They could find a better paying jobs, better jobs for themselves, and provide a better living for me and my sister. And they would just send money back to us, every month. And maybe come back once or twice a year to see us, just to make sure we're staying out of trouble. So during this time, we were really left to our own devices. Yeah. And thankfully, if you can imagine, a lot of things can go wrong when kids are on their own at this age. But I got really lucky that the community really helped raise me and my sister. There were boba shops and restaurants and cafes that let us spend 3 to 4 hours there, just taking one of their tables to do homework, stay out of trouble, eat food, take a nap even. I put 3 chairs together and just lay down. They really let us do that. And that meant a lot. The
Mm,
gym leaders that left the doors open till 12:30 midnight, past midnight, so we would stay out of trouble and shoot hoops. These guys are part of my community. And so
mm,
when I became a veterinarian, I knew that I always wanted to come back to my community and my hometown and practice. Yeah, and so that's the upbringing thing, okay,
yeah.
and how I was raised and building a little bit of toughness. But even more than that, that when I was in college, I actually came out pretty much a loser. I had a,
Okay.
I had a 2.4 GPA, super low. I was unfocused. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life because, I didn't really have any adults around to guide me. I would play
Yeah.
basketball for 5 hours, video games for another six, and party for another four. And that was my college life. And coming out of it, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. My parents actually came back one time and saw that I was so much of a loser that they kicked me out the house. And they said,
Wow.
"Hey, you're not getting that money that we're working hard for anymore. You're on your own. Figure your life out." And I was left on my own. I was stocking frozen fish at a Chinese supermarket, and this is where it ties into the next step, because I'm so grateful now to be a veterinarian because I'm not stocking frozen fish at a Chinese restaurant or a Chinese supermarket anymore, and
Yeah.
I'm not painting houses in the heat of the summer like I was back then. Um, and I decided to be a veterinarian when my parents and my aunt and my uncle and people that are part of the community that helped raise me, they were out of town. I had to watch my aunt's dog. Um, and during this time, the dog got really, really sick. And I was I was forced at 23 years old to make some really, really tough decisions for my family that wasn't there. It was on my shoulders. My little cousin was with me. He was also a parachute kid, and it was not a fun experience. Yeah. So, after going through that, I decided, hey, I don't want any other parachute kids in this community that are here on their own to go through an experience like this without any guidance. The pets mean so much, especially for kids whose parents aren't here, all the time, and to make tough decisions without the guidance of an Asian American or a Chinese speaking individual, can be tough for people in my community. So after that, it's decided to be a vet. I told my mom, hey, you know what? I'm gonna be focused. Please forgive me for what I've done. Can you, sponsor me a couple $100? I'll come up with the rest to apply for veterinary school. And she did. She took me back in, and we're best friends now. We kick butt, and I got into Ross University. I haven't looked back. So that's kind of the journey there. And when I finally came back and as a first year vet, working alone, this is tying into, the second part of your question, right?
Yeah.
I was recruited by Banfield, and, they had great, they had contributed to my student loan, great benefits, as a new grad, a high salary, but at the time I was part of a Banfield that just opened. So very luckily, there wasn't that many patients. And so the days I was there by myself, 3 out of 4 days of the week, I would be able to take on cases on my own and work through the cases on my own, and without the pressure of seeing the next one and the next one and the next one.
Right.
And then during this time, we went from seeing 6 patients a day to 8 patients a day. I get an hour to work up a pancreatitis case my first week, and then the next week, it took me 30 minutes. And the next week, it took me 15 minutes, and it kind of the stuff that you work out on your own during that experience, and you figure out what works well, what type of communication works with the clients. Those experiences when you're learning kind of stay with you forever. And so at the end of the year, the first year that the hospital only made, 400 grand, right? And the year after that, 700 grand, as I was getting
Wow.
better and faster. And at the end of that, 1.2. And before I knew it, I was one of the highest producing doctors in Banfield for the area. So it was a really cool experience as a new grad. Focus was always on helping people and getting really good at my craft so that I can help the people in my community when they were in need. So put in extra hours, like I said, 3 to 4 days of the week on my own, fourth day with another doctor. And I would take on as many extra shifts as I could during this time. One, because I wanted to pay off my student loans, right?
Yeah.
And second of all, because I understood that, hey, if I'm putting in reps on my off days, yeah, and I'm taking on day 5, day 6 while everyone else is resting, okay, and I'm taking on day 13, day 14 in a 2 week period when everybody else is resting. After a 1 to 2 year period, my contemporaries would not be able to catch up. And that way I could catch up to the people that had been in practice for 4 to 5 years. But I knew I was the only one that spoke Mandarin in the area, and I had to catch up very, very fast. So that's kind of what drove me during this time. It wasn't about feeling burnt out. It wasn't really about, you know, working that much harder to try to make ends meet, but rather I wanted to serve my people. And when at the end of every 2 weeks or a week, and I would get a box of donuts or a box of baked goods, or chocolates, I knew I was doing good for my community, and that kind of kept me going, kept me energized. And I think if you find that passion and you find the calling and the purpose in VetMed for yourself, you'll feel pretty similarly. And I was very lucky that I found that calling at a young age.
So it's kind of a calling. You had a specific goal. I need to get good enough so I can come back to my community because I'm the only one speaking the language,
Mandarin.
basically, so I can be them. Yeah. Would you say that because you must have had self-doubt, right? We come out of vet school and we basically it's like, ain't no bands, how do you empty them? And that's how I was. I
Yeah.
felt I knew a lot of theory, but then once you're in it, it's different, right? So are you just superhuman, or did you have self-doubts back then? You just
Of course, I had self-doubt, and everyone has self-doubt. Self-doubt is a very funny thing, you know. You have self-doubt coming out of it, yeah, and you're worried, but you have to do it anyways. The
Mm,
reason why is you had to feel like without you, the patient will be way far worse off, right?
yeah, yeah.
So even if you have self-doubt, you use that to drive yourself. Yeah, that's what I did. I said, hey, I don't feel comfortable about this. Let me put in as many reps as I can. Let me read as much as I can. Let me study this procedure as much as I can and scramble for as many resources as I can so I can provide and feel good when I provide. And of course, even when you're providing, you in the first year, you're feeling, oh my God, I'm nervous. But 2 weeks later, it worked, right? And then the self-doubt when it comes to that thing is gone. So everyone has to start somewhere. It's okay to feel that self-doubt. Let it drive you a little bit. Let it drive you to put in more effort and more work than anybody else. And you'll know, hey, you know what? I did more work than anyone else. Maybe I can feel good about this. And when it works, you say, I definitely feel good about this. This is a repeatable thing I can do.
I love that, having self-doubt as a drive to just, okay, instead of going, oh no, because I think a lot of us, if we're a bit insecure, the self-doubt, we make it mean, oh no, I'm not good enough. If I do this, it's going to go wrong, or there should be someone else better than me. That's why
Yeah.
I find it so, because I coach vets, right, that are in
Yeah.
burnout, and even people that are really experienced, once you get so much self-doubt, you just think that it's a signal that something is going wrong. But what you're saying is, oh no, it's just a signal of just keep going. You just need to do it a few more times.
Yeah, everyone has it. Everyone has it. You know, even people that are 12 years in, you hear them talk about it, right? I know you coach a lot of veterinarians, and some of them go through ruts. You know, we go through ruts. You know, and at that time, that self-doubt rears its ugly head. But just let it drive you. You feel the self-doubt. It's there for a reason, right? And when you feel it, don't. It's you can get crushed by it. It can feel overwhelming, but what you look back on what you were like made to do and what you're meant to do here, and you just say, hey, I can work this through. I can work this through. And if I just put in as many reps and as many hours as I can start feeling a little bit better.
Do you still do that? Do you still put as many hours in, or have you calmed down a bit now? You have, but with a new clinic, it's hard as well, right?
Yeah, with the new clinic, it's hard as well, but I still have my self-doubt days, even I'm not even gonna lie, even on Monday this week, I had a procedure that I haven't done since 2019 come in the door that needed my help, right? And you have that self-doubt, but you're the only one in this area. It's weird to say at a young age, but I'm the only one in this area that would perform that surgery. And
Wow.
so I put in the hours, I put in the work, and I studied up for it, for a solid hour before going into the procedure, and try to take in as many videos and resources as I can at 1.5 times speed, listening to podcasts, YouTube, reading, Fossum's books, and you say, all right, I'm ready for this again, and you take a dive into it. So, and it worked out really well for the pet, right? So let it drive you, let it drive you. And procedures don't happen every day. If I haven't done a procedure since 2019 and I have self-doubt, that's very normal. It's very normal. Anyone's gonna have it, So just understanding that and letting it flow through and let the process do the talking for you after.
Yeah, that's true. I love that you mentioned that you still have self-doubt, because I find, because I'm 47 myself, and I
Yeah.
still sometimes, well, obviously in ER, like I marvel every week. So I work 1 week on, 3 weeks off. And every
Yeah.
week I'm on, there's something I haven't seen before. I have worked for 20 years, and I'm like, how can there still be stuff I haven't not
Yeah.
even heard about? And then I Google it, I'm like, oh yeah, it exists. How did I not know about this?
Exactly, exactly. And you know what? That's actually I'm not even gonna lie. Like even if we feel that way, like look at the smile on both of our faces when we're talking about it.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's so amazing. And it's the beauty of veterinary medicine. We can always keep learning, We're learning so much, we're seeing so many things, and we're helping so many people. If we and pets, even if we can't help the pets, we're helping the people cope with different things. it's
Yeah.
it's it's a really magical thing that we can do. And I always think back at how grateful I am to do this, and provide for people instead of I was saying, of course, stocking frozen fish isn't the worst job, but I don't want to ever go back to that. I never want to go back to my days, where I was living in the hood, $300 a month for rent, being roommates with a grandma, walking in a puffy jacket to work so I wouldn't get mugged. Like that was my upbringing. So now that I get to do this, you're gonna see me, self-doubt or not, how much work or not, I have this big smile on my face just like you do, because we you can tell we generally love the craft. We love
Yeah.
it.
I
Yeah.
burned out for a year just around COVID and went off. And I thought, I've got coached myself. And then I thought, I'm just going to do coaching and not come back to vet med. But then once I stepped out of the anxiety and then, learned to kind of cope, then I started really missing it. And,
Yeah.
and I found difficult to be without it. But I can also recognize what you said with stocking fish. So I did a lot of cleaning jobs. I have a bit
Yeah.
of a similar upbringing like you, different in Europe, but a bit the same. I had to work from an early age. And like, for example, cleaning jobs where you go in and you do the same thing
Every
every
day.
day. Same product, same people, same bins, toilets, same thing. It kills me. Like I can do hard work, but
Yeah.
repetitive, boring work, it's just I can't. And vet work is just never boring, no
Yeah.
matter what
Yeah.
you do. Like
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes,
right?
it's yeah, and sometimes, it's okay to take a step back and kind of take some time off and reflect on how great, taking how great of a career we really have. I know stepping away must have been really, really hard, right, Gunila?
Yeah, it was. It was because I think that's also the stigma, everybody, but you always started to become a vet. You can't just leave it, right? That's where you are. It's our identity, which I think can be heavy as well. And I always say to people, and I write a lot about it, like if you want to leave vet med, you're absolutely free. Don't feel trapped. Like don't stay in it because it's a sunk cost and your family and what will my mom say? I think that's what most people probably think.
Yeah.
What will my mom say if I say I leave? Like if you stay in it, it
Yeah.
has to be because you want to, not because what would
Yeah.
your mom say on Sunday dinner when you break it up the news at the table.
She'd be like, "What?"
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that shouldn't be what drives you. Everyone has to find, and some find it at a younger age, some find it at an older age. But if you really, kind of take a step back and think about what you want to kind of drive your career in vet med and make it your calling, it's a good idea to take some time and do that. It's always a
yeah,
good idea to do that. And then once you do that, then you feel, really like for me, once I found that, I'm not gonna lie, not a single day in the clinic has felt like work since. It's been so much fun. But before that, I can definitely see, how you're not sure what's really driving you. Dealing with difficult people can really, really be tough. Dealing with pet loss, patient loss can be so tough. So if you don't have that, yeah, you can get burned out pretty fast if you're putting too much focus on the wrong areas, per se, or so you can say. But yeah.
I think that's the key what you just said, that we like sometimes we focus a lot and there will be disaster and tragedy. I mean, I work in ER, so 60% of comes into through my door is going to die within an hour. That's just, that. But you work in
That's
more
how it
general
is.
practice, but still, they're going to be terrible things, like maybe a puppy you've been vaccinating for since it was born and now it's 2 years and it gets run over, and it's just like the most horrible tragedy. And you have to be there for the people. But I think it's going to happen whether we're here or not, right? So even if we can't stop them from suffering completely, we can't save their lives, we can still, like you say, be there for the owners, not for the pet
Yep.
parents.
Yeah. And that's kind of what drives me, at least myself, in vet med. And maybe it can drive some people now if I mention it a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm here, for the people and the community, as much as I am for their pets, and really having that connection with, for example, like the aunties and uncles that raised me in my community. That's how I approach every client and and my patients, or their pets. If I can help an auntie and uncle in the community, then
yeah.
I've done a good job. So for me, that's what helps. Maybe it'll help, some of the listeners out there, to think about the people that help raise them, the people in the community, the people they see on walks, And if you love that, let that drive you. If you want to be a voice for the voiceless, let that drive you. Even if you want to make as much money as you want in vet med and let that drive you, let it drive you, you know. Every person, every clinic has a different culture. If you find that culture, you find that drive, you find that purpose, then it'll make your life feel a lot better in vet med.
I think you said something key there as well when you find the clinic. So maybe that's what happens as well when we say, oh, it's a toxic workplace, or I don't like vet med anymore because I don't like the clinic. But maybe we just fell into a clinic where everybody's passion is just different from ours. Maybe you say,
Yeah,
maybe a clinic is very family driven and you actually want to make more money so you can go to Caribbean twice a year, which is perfectly fine, right? Whatever each goals are. Or the opposite, maybe you are more driven towards charity or whatever, and then you go into like a money making machine where all the owners
yeah,
have Ferraris outside.
yeah.
So maybe that's, would you say the first clinic you worked in, did they all share you same kind of visions and goals, ambitions?
Yeah, the first Banfield I worked in at first didn't really have that because corporate does like to, make their money. That's their job as a corporation. They have
Yeah.
investors, they have boards, that they have to answer to, and there's a trickle down from there, right? There's
Mm.
there's a president, a vice president, and there's CEO, and there's all that. However, in each individual practice, you can build your own culture. So I got very lucky that I was in a fairly new practice and I was a little bit able to impress, even at a young age, impress my culture onto the staff in the practice. Not so much because I had a loud voice, but just by leading by example.
Mm.
If a pet walks into the door and I say yes to the pet, no matter what the schedule looks like, then the staff will see that, right? And they'll say, oh, this guy's really trying to help people. Oh, this pet's in need. Don't just send them away to emergency. I can do what I can. At least let me talk to them and help them figure out what they can do in this situation.
Mm.
If and they see that again and again, and if it's consistent and they see that, okay, that culture is going to trickle down. And oh, Dr. Z likes to work this way. Oh, we also like to work this way. This makes me feel good when I practice, right? And then, luckily my staff kind of had that buy-in. And we ended up being able to help a lot of pets, and we were able to become a profitable Banfield. And I guess when I was starting for Banfield, they saw that and sent me to another startup Banfield so I could do the same thing. So that was
Yeah.
kind of a thing that I saw. And of course, you were talking about self-doubt earlier, right? The
Yeah.
self-doubt opening a clinic. What helped with that, was I think about, hey, Banfield sent me to two practices to do this, and I did this successfully. Maybe I can do this one on my own successfully. And that kind of is what drove me to open my own clinic and become successful like the Banfields did.
Wow. I think that's really inspiring. But how do you, if your main drive is to, of course, help the pets, but it's also help the people, what do you do when you get a string? And I know there are not actually that many of them, the difficult clients. Like most
Yeah.
people are lovely, but sometimes you get a string, like you just get a like three or four in
That's-
a row that just makes you like an epidemic or something, and it makes you doubt, like, why are we even doing this? Do you
yeah.
get that at all? Have you had moments?
Yeah, yeah. So I think when you're first starting out as a veterinarian, you don't understand your value that much. And I think when you have difficult clients and a few in a row, a string of them, like you said, dealing with that can definitely be really, really hard, and really, really hard. And if you're not protected by a mentor or another staff member there, I definitely, please, please, please take some days off, get your mind right, and find your focus and your passion again, and get some cases and talk with people that you love, that love you and the things you do in vet med, and help with that. But by now, for me, now, it's going on 8 years in over here, when I have something like that, it's a lot easier to brush it off my shoulder. Yeah, because
Mm.
by this time I understand the value I have to this community. I understand the work that I've done. Yeah, I've put in more hours than any of my contemporaries. I put in more work than a lot of people that have been in the field 12, 20 years and that refer cases to me, right? Because I've done the work. So and I know my customer service value because I'm here to help people, and I'm truly here to help people. And so if someone's really, really unhappy with the way that I'm helping them, it's not because I didn't help them. And it's not because I didn't do my best to help them and provide my services for them. But maybe they're having a bad day. And maybe they don't like the way I talk to people. Maybe I'm too nice. I've had that before. Or they said I'm too nice, it feels condescending, right? And that's okay. And that's okay. They're okay to feel their own way. I don't get hurt by it. Everyone's a little bit different. I'm not the sternest dude, and I'm not quick and gruff. Some people like that. And I say, hey, if you don't like that, that's okay. There's a number of great clinics in this area. I can get you their phone numbers and their contact information. I really love this doctor here or that doctor there. There's enough of the pie to go around. Yeah, in vet med. And so you refer them to your colleagues, and yeah, and you go on to the next one, because right behind them is 3 to 4 more cases that love you and or need your help, right? So focus on them.
Oh God, that should be a poster in every veterinary clinic. Obviously, maybe hidden from the client, but
Yeah,
behind any idiot, yeah, there's always gonna be 3 or 4 people that will
three
love
or
you.
four. Yep,
Yeah,
exactly. And don't let that person let you bring you down. One bad review, okay, that's okay. But the next person might bring you homemade brownies, and that will fill your tummy and that'll fill your heart.
that is so true. I think it's, yeah, I don't know if it's just like in general, because once we already tired and we already maybe a bit in fight and flight from feeling self-doubt creeping in maybe, and we haven't had time maybe to stop and just reflect on it, and then you get someone and it feels like a real attack, and we it's like we don't have any defenses, right? We just take it in,
Yeah,
and we
yeah,
believe what they say about us, and what they say we just take it as truth, and oh no, I'm not valuable, I'm not good
yeah,
enough, and we just
yeah,
take it
yeah.
on. So
Some people, yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard. So what I like to do is, take when on days like that, or even every day, just take 30 minutes, just sit in the silence and think about your work today. And if you had something that made you feel bad, also focus on yourself, right? Like,
mm,
we I call it, or in Japanese culture they call it ikigai. Yeah, you think about your
ikigai.
purpose. Yeah, you think about your purpose and what you're here for, and if you're working towards that day, and even if the result wasn't there, if you stuck to your principles, your values, your culture, and what you're about, and your purpose, you can feel good. If you feel like you improved a little bit that day, then you can feel
Yeah,
good. And tomorrow's a new day.
I love that. My coach always says when I'm having, for example, oh, such and such didn't like me, or some, people didn't respond to whatever. And he's from South Korea, and he's,
Yeah,
he's a Buddhist. And he goes, who do you want to control your life, you or other people? And it's so
yeah,
true, right? Because you can only control your own actions and what your purpose is, and at least the intention, even if it comes out completely wrong where you did and it didn't go like you wanted it to.
yeah.
But the intention you had when you set out to do it, that's something you can always control.
Yep, the only two things you can control: your work and your attitude. That's
Yes.
that's it. Everything else is out of your control, but if you do those two, how you want to you control those how you want to, then you're done your job. You can sleep good at night.
It's another poster we need to have in the veterinary clinic.
Yeah. I
Sell
should
them.
I should get that one. I know, another old man poster.
Yes, just line them up. So you mentioned a couple of times now, like worked extra hours, work extra days on that. But how do you do so you have time for yourself as well? Because I know everybody are so much into the whole work balance. Have time for yourself, family,
Yeah.
hobbies, whatever it is you want. Like, do you balance that, you think, or?
Oh, this is a little bit difficult one for me, because I find so much joy in the clinic. So
Yeah.
for me, when I'm in the clinic, it feels like vacation. It feels like fun. And I'm
Wow.
listening to music. I'm in surgery. I'm jamming out. It doesn't feel, I don't feel the weight so much anymore. But I do take Sundays off. Every Sunday I take off to just relax. And if I have a little bit of work to do, I'll do emails or focus on my pet products company for 2 hours, 3 hours doing some administrative stuff. But after that, I do what I love. I definitely put in 1 to 3 hours of basketball, because that's how I take out, my stress and everything like that. Things like that are important. I do save for myself, but I think it's a little bit disproportional from what other people have, because I only need 1 to 3 hours of basketball to make me feel good over there, and make me at least feel healthy. And then in the clinic is really where I have a lot of fun. But if you don't find that passion and that fun, and that's not yourself, you're not immersed in that like I am, that's okay. I just got very, very lucky. I think you should definitely take that time to do what you love, because that's
Yeah.
going to re-energize you. And if it coincides a little bit, if you find a little way to connect that with your work a little bit, your life will feel a little bit better. Yeah.
I think so. I think I love nerding out on cases, when you get something complicated in, and then it's
Yeah.
almost like Dr. House. I love watch Dr. House. I don't know if you know
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes.
if only we had all the tests he just does, like with a flick of his finger.
Yeah.
But no, there's no money. We just have to do.
We just have to just throw steroids. It's no money. It's time for steroids. But no, no, no. Nerding out on difficult cases is so much fun. That's what I mean. Like that's the stuff that brings a smile to my face. That to me feels like vacation. Or it feels like a day off, even though I'm in the clinic. So yeah, that's all fun stuff for me. I hope a lot of people in vet med can continue to find the passion in that type of detective work, like you said. If that
Yeah.
makes them happy, makes them fun, great. Learning new procedures, great. This is the type of stuff that can re-energize you in the clinic, especially if you're feeling, a little bit burnt out. Just remember what you're passionate about in here.
Yeah. And I guess as well, like if you're feeling dread going to work in a specific clinic and it's just not jamming with you, maybe the answer is not leaving vet med. Maybe it's looking for another clinic if you can,
Absolutely.
and see if you
Absolutely.
can find people that you jam more with, maybe as well.
Yeah, yeah, and you touched on that just a little bit earlier, Absolutely. You have to find people that have the same culture as you. If there's a culture mismatch or a values mismatch between the staff and the clinic culture, or in the lead doctor and the trickle down, is not in a positive fashion, yeah, then okay, that's okay. Like you said, you don't leave vet med. Because if you know your passions in vet med, maybe you need to find a clinic whose values are similar to you. So when you go in for those interviews, ask how they started this clinic, why they started this clinic, why this area in particular, yeah, and what kind of what type of doctors are working here, and what are they about, what are their hours, and things like that. If you have overworked, very stressed doctor, and the doctor's not happy there, it will trickle down too. So these are all important questions to ask.
Yeah, definitely. I remember, I think as well, having a look around where, the facilities for the staff. So where I work
Yeah.
now, it's amazing. We have so I stay and sleep, and the rooms are just cleaned between each person. We have it's really nice. Everything is new. There's a cleaner for the kitchen, so it's not like a horrible. When you go into staff rooms. So I worked at a
Yeah.
clinic. I shall not name. It's in the UK anyway, but it was literally, I was working a few nights there, and I went into a staff room and they used it as a stock room. So you couldn't really sit anywhere. And then they had inherited some bar stools or something, but they were so sticky that you couldn't, it was horrible. These owners, it was a corporate, but the people that had kind of the
Yeah.
managers, that whatever they call, they had Ferraris parked in
Oh my
out the door.
God. And
And it was just, and one of the Kellner sisters was sweeping the floor and the broom head kept falling off. And I was like, well, just get a new broom. This is insane. Oh no, we don't invest in anything like that. If you come into an interview, just go for a little round. And if you see stuff like that, just
yeah.
don't.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know for you what the right red flags are, because I know you coach a lot more people than me, but that's definitely a red flag for me. If there's a sticky bar stool and a break room that's used as a stock room, and there's nowhere to sit, oh man, you can imagine what they're investing and what they're focused on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let me see. There was a yes, you have your another company, which is the Velnergy Pets products.
Oh yeah.
So you sell supplements and stuff for pets. And I think your resilience is just remarkable. I read that you got about 19 no's before you found somewhere where they would actually where you got a foot in to sell the products. Like, where do you get that resilience from? Where you just keep
Well,
going and that trust in yourself?
I don't honestly, I don't really know. I just maybe I'm a little bit competitive, but more importantly, when I started this company, it was during COVID and I was still working for corporate Banfield. And the reason why I started it was, not to make money or anything like that. It was just out of the blue because honestly, veterinary visits were backed up for weeks at a time when COVID first hit. I don't know if you remember, it's like 3 to 5 day weeks,
Mm.
3 to 5 week waits, and it was just insane. And I worked in my community, right? And my basketball coach just sent me a picture and this is really what drove me to it at 8:30 a.m. of pictures of his dog's name is Bambi, and the diarrhea was all over his sofa, his floor, his couch, and he was like, Dr. Z, there's diarrhea all over the floor. I don't know if I can pick this up every single day. I can't see you for 3 weeks. Banfield said you guys are backed up. What can I do? And I said, oh, there has to be a better way to take care of their pets during a crazy time like COVID, and avoid a veterinary visit. So I got really lucky. I thought of the idea to take some of the ingredients that I use from the back of the clinic, put them together to make probiotics and antidiarrheals and things like that. And really, I just sold it out the back of my garage. And then I found someone who would sell me 500, a co-packer who would make the product for me. I said 500, great. I think I can get 500 out the door this year to help people. Let's do it. And from there, it kind of grew and grew. And they said, this is great. You should make a website. I said, a website? How do I do that? And they're like, oh, go on Shopify.com. And I said, okay. And so I researched how to create a website, created the website. And very luckily, it kind of took off. I was able to, provide not just for the people in my community, but people, pet parents everywhere in the US in need during a time that where veterinary visits were backed up for weeks. And I guess the story caught the attention of some people on USA Network on TV, and they threw me on TV to kind of pitch the product and the idea
Amazing.
to big box retailers. And I got really lucky. I got like a $100,000 order from Lowe's Home Improvement, and that kind of took off our retail journey into now I'm in CVS pharmacies as well, Chewy.com, Petco.com, and of course Amazon. And it just we it was a lot of luck, but I'm not gonna lie. But I think the resilience, like that you said, was a huge part of it. I think the the focus, if it's always on helping, to me, that the culture, my philosophy is, and I tell everyone this is when they meet me, with about how I do things and why I do things. I don't maybe I can do better bookkeeping, maybe I can do better margins, maybe I can do better this that in business. But the focus is always on, if you help people and you help pets, everything else will come. All the good will come.
Mm.
And so I just keep going to work with that philosophy and surround myself with people who handle, the good business side and margins and stuff like that. But if I focus on that, then everything else will come. I did get, I'm not gonna lie, it was basically 90 no's until I got the 91 yes, as I was applying into go into Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Target, and things like that. And you just keep going and keep going, and you found a product that really helps people, like the anti-diarrheal product or the dental products and things like that, hairball control products, and you just keep providing for them. And same thing, you get handwritten cards back from clients, and you're like, hey, what we're doing is a good thing here. Let's keep the ball rolling. And I don't think too much about expansion. I don't think too much about margins. I don't think too much about this or that until maybe once a year I'll focus on that. But the focus is just on helping people. Yeah.
That is amazing. I think that should be the title of the podcast. Just focus on helping people. I think we get too much in our head sometimes, don't we? We just get in too much into, everything that's not working, and what about me, and what am I, what's wrong with
Yeah.
me, instead of just focusing on it. No,
And yeah, and it's a difficult thing. It's always easier to look back and see, oh, this is how this happened, and connect the dots and say, hey, in this sequence of events, because I did this and this and this and this worked. But it's really hard to have a philosophy and have an idea and 100% believe in it without having any evidence that it works, and let it drive you. And I got really lucky that, I was raised in that fashion, that if by my veterinary mentors and my parents, that if you keep helping people and you help pets, everything else will come. And it's something I believed in 100% since the day I've been out in practice, and it served me well. It served me well.
I love that. I don't think it was luck. I think it's definitely, you might call it luck, but luck finds the ones that just keep going, right? When you
Yeah.
when you want. So you said so on Sundays you play basketball to just get out, get that energy. And you said you spend so 30 minutes a day just thinking about your, what's happened and this and the other. Is there
Yeah, yeah,
anything
yeah.
else you do to take care of like sleep, your nutrition, your fitness, anything to take care of yourself? Because we have to put the oxygen masks on ourselves first, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I do wish that, at some point I'll get more sleep. If you have that, I actually met some guy, his name was Marcos, the other day, and he was a 53-year-old taco guy, best tacos in Southern California, at Taco Del Rio. And I said, man, Marcos, how old are you? Because you look so young, but you just told me that 20-year-old over there is your kid. He said, I'm 53. I said, you look 38. And he said, let me tell you the secret. I said, what's the secret? And I don't know if this helps anybody or not, but he said the secret is just getting lots of sleep. If you take some time, and I say I use that 30 minutes for myself, 3 hours of basketball, and you throw in some sleep, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. And if the waking hours you're grinding and you're working really hard, you sleep good. And that was it. And he said tacos, of course. But
I'm in.
so those are the two things. So tacos and sleep on Sundays, can really go a long way, apparently, according to Marcos.
I already love Marcus. I think I need to go to California now and try
Yeah,
this
right.
stuff.
But yeah,
Yeah.
and also, having a good family and support system helps a lot too. I'll say that. My parents are amazing. I moved back in with them maybe 3 years ago. Finally, when they moved back from Taiwan and China,
Mhm.
I haven't lived with them for over 16 years. So it was
Wow.
good to see them again, and they keep me young. It's good reconnecting with them, seeing them at home when I get home from work. I think it's really great to have that support system, and I think it's helped me tremendously from being burnt out.
It does help, definitely. I think so. Having a background as well. I mean, my family has been really supportive as well. I do
Yeah,
think there's something as well, so like sleep and whatever routines you have. But I do think as well your happiness and your job is gonna, like, even if you don't get all the hours of sleep you maybe think you need, because I think
yeah,
burnout comes. And I know that from myself because I can work a 13-hour night shift nonstop and obviously be tired. And then obviously I need to go to sleep afterwards, but it doesn't burn me out if we could just keep going. And I'm working with awesome nurses and we're just like in in the zone, and you just do one after the other. I think burnout comes more from when we start, spinning and what did I do wrong and what this is not good enough and oh this client and this complaint. I think that's what burns us out. But when you're in it and you feel you're helping and you just have this
yeah,
drive forward, I think it's you can sleep a bit less and do a bit less
yeah.
meditation or whatever we do.
Absolutely, absolutely, Gunilla. You hit it on the head. And honestly, I talked about my Sunday routines and things like that. But
Yeah.
the real key for me, the real key, just like you said, happiness at work. Yeah, if you're really happy doing what you do at work, that'll stop you from burning out. And understanding that at the end of every day, you get a reset. And those are the two things for me that has helped
Mm.
the most. I can talk about this and that and this and that for self-care, but if I didn't have those two, I don't think I could do it. So those are
Mm.
those are the two really, really important things.
Amazing. I won't take more of your time because it's Sunday and I bet you want to go play some basketball and I'll probably go to sleep because we are in completely different time zones. So thank you
Get
so
some
much for
sleep.
coming on. And where can people find you so they can? I'm sure most of people know you already, but for those few that don't know you and would like to follow you and your amazing work ethics and everything you do, what's the best way?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at dr.zonramliao, like my name is spelled. And you can check out all of the cool videos that I post when it comes to education, helping new veterinary graduates with different procedures and things like that, communicating with clients. I'm more than happy to help. And if you want to follow the pet supplements business side of things, you can find us at wellnergypets.com, WELLNERGYPETS.com. And yeah, hope to spend some time with everybody, the listeners. If you guys reach out to me, I'm more than happy to help. I know Gunila is an amazing resource, and she's done amazing work for the veterinary community, which is a community too, as a whole. And thanks for having me on.
Thank you. I'll make sure to put all this in the show notes, and everybody follow Dr.Z. If nothing else, you're gonna snort tea out of your nose laughing when you put your funny reels on. Thank you so
I'm just a
much.
silly guy. I'm just a silly guy in a clinic.
That's the attitude. That's the attitude. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.